It is time once again for the weekly closes on our favorite Bitcoin miners. But before we get there, I want to talk about the overall market for a moment here, specifically the SPY. You can see here yesterday we had this huge gap down. It was 5.85% down. That's like 6 months worth of movement in one day on Friday. You can see this huge volume bar here, way bigger, dwarfing anything else we've seen in a really long time. And in fact, this is a little tidbit I want to point out. You can see, all right, so we draw the line right across there, and you can see there it is, right, that volume bar, and it doesn't even come close to touching it, or no other volume bars even come close to touching it until we get all the way back here, which, guess what this was? This was the 2022 bear market. Okay, that was the last time we saw a volume bar this big, this negative, this bad. Okay, so let's zoom in on that for a moment. And once we're there, okay. Oh, these were green though. Look at that. They were green, and it was still just down, 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 down. So last time we saw a volume of this magnitude, yeah, same here. Like, let's see, how much bigger was the code volume than this volume that we're looking at today? So we're not quite to that level. So we're about, 2/3 of the way-ish, a little more than half of the way up that volume bar that we had from the drop-offs there. So it's not quite that intense yet. But we are seeing a lot of signs here that we could be in a bear market. Now, of course, I've said before, that could be undone if the US and China come to an agreement here about the tariffs, because we get tons and tons and tons of our products from China, and China can't hit back with a reciprocal tariff, which caused this massive waterfall event that we experienced. Okay, and we haven't seen volume like this since 2022. So basically, I'm looking to sell any rips at this point in time in the market. Okay, in terms of like regular stocks and equities, Bitcoin is showing relative strength to this, showing that it's holding strong. So Bitcoin might actually be one of those few things that holds up and maybe even breaks out while this is going on. But the stock market as a whole, and that includes all of our favorite stocks like Tesla and Nvidia and Meta and all sorts of other stocks, they're likely going to see further downside out of this whole situation. Okay, let's go take a look at the weekly closes on our Bitcoin miners now. How bad is it? Not the worst, not the worst. So VX Trender, we actually got a lighter red on here on the volume here. It's lightening up on the red side as well on the weekly for CleanSpark. That's not too bad. We actually ended up with a positive week, 1.81%. That's better than you can say for the overall market. Perhaps a lot of that downside that we are now experiencing in the wider market was already beaten out of the Bitcoin sector already, perhaps. Maybe, we'll see. But we came down, we hit... So we came back down almost basically to our January 2024 low here. So it got pretty close to meeting that here. And it's starting to show a little bit of promise down here. So we got that. The MACD down here is starting to curl up a little bit. Yeah, everything's kind of looking like this has at least met some sort of temporary bottom. Maybe it will bounce up a little bit and then come back down further. Maybe it will go sideways for a little while. But this is actually not looking too bad. We do have a lot of work to do to get up to the 21-week moving average and the 200-week moving average up at, let's see, up at 11. Let's see, yeah, at 1126 is the 200-week moving average, 1096 is the 50-week moving average, and 985 is the 21-week moving average. On the downside, I'd be looking at 635 as support here, which is that January 2024 low. Perhaps. Yeah, I'd be seeing that. Yeah, and if it gets under that, well, then we've got room all the way down to $5, maybe even to $4 or so on CleanSpark. But it's not looking terrible. Like right now, it's kind of looking like this might be an area where it's ready to try to base and maybe start breaking some of these trend lines to the upside. Okay, let's take a look at the warrants real quick. The warrants are just down, 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 and maybe we're finding we came all the way to the very bottom of this big green candle here, and to the penny basically. Yeah, to the penny on that thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a base here. Just go sideways for a little while and then start to break out and up again into the 80-cent range, maybe even at the dollar. Again, tap that from below. We'll see if it has the legs to go higher than that. I am still holding my CleanSpark warrants. I sold off about 30% of them before the big drop. I sold about, so I've sold out about 30% of them at just above just between in here, like at 40 cents. I sold out 30% of what I was holding just to de-risk because I had too much money exposed to the sector and things were falling fast, so it became capital preservation mode, and I'm happy that I did that because right now I could buy back twice as many for the same amount of money where the current price is. Okay, so sometimes, you know, gotta sever the fingers to save the hand, so that's what I was doing there. All right, let's take a look at Mara. How's Mara doing? There's a lot of drawings on Mara. I should probably hide those for a second. For Mara on the weekly, it's not looking as good. It's minus 9.34% compared to CleanSpark's actual positive week. But again, it is also looking like it's trying to find some sort of a base here and try to find some area where it could reverse off of. Now we did get a wick on the bottom there. That's not too bad. The BX trender though is showing red still, so we are getting deeper red still, and the volume is still showing up as deeper red. Yeah. Now the MACD is looking like it's trying to get prepared to curl up and around here, but it hasn't shown that sign yet. We really need to see it. Let me go ahead. We really need to see it take out this. Let me go here. This yellow line, this yellow trend line from above first before we even have a chance at moving up. So Mara really needs to break this yellow line here, and then it's got to move up, potentially up to like $16, and from there it's going to contend with the 200-day moving average at 1693, the 50-day or the 50-week, sorry, the 200-week and the 50-week moving average at 1693 and 1742 respectively. The 21 is also up there at 1631. So that $16 to $18 area is going to be a bit of a struggle for Mara once it breaks this yellow descending line there. Okay, let's take a look at Iren. Iren is forming it's forming quite a nice falling wedge here actually. When this breaks out, I wouldn't be surprised to see it really quickly retest $10. We did come as low as $5.26, so this is going to do a real quick double up to $10 probably, and then start maybe falling over or at least hit some resistance once it does that. I have completely sold out of my Iren. I sold out completely out of my Iren between $7 and $8, so I made something like 20% on there. I went from being about 200% up to, you know, 100. That was 100 and something odd percent up, right? And then I went from that all the way back down to like barely being 20% up. So boo, that sucked. But I got completely out of my Iren up here in between $8 and $7. When I saw that it was going to come back down, when I saw that that cup and handle failed, and then it failed spectacularly. But this is a falling wedge, and if it can get back into this descending channel here, the midpoint of that in the coming weeks is between in the mid nines. That's not so bad. We got the 50-week moving average at 909. We got the 21-week moving average at 933. To the downside, we got a lot of support all the way down at like 420. So 420. We got a lot of support at 420. We also have a solid amount of support right where this candle here came to close, or came at the bottom of that candle at 520. So between 520 and 420, we've got quite a lot of support for Iren. I don't really expect it to fall much further than that unless things get really, really bad. And when it breaks out of this descending wedge here, I would be not at all surprised to see it hit $10, maybe even scoop up to like $11 or $12 before curling right back over again for the next cycle low sometime in August, September, October, somewhere around there. Okay. Let's take a look at Riot. How is Riot doing? Riot is still just holding this trend line down. We closed underneath the midpoint of it. We came back, tested the lows at 635 this week. The BX trender looks bad. The volume here, the volume visualizer looks bad. MACD still kind of pointing straight down there. It's not looking good in terms of this one specifically. Well, let me look at Iren. How the Iren look? Yeah, it's also looking bad in that respect, but it is making that nice falling wedge that I like. Okay, so Riot is mostly just a channel down, a downward channel, a really aggressive one too. So if we get this here, and I draw this, and I take this line here, and go like, not that. That's a ray. I want a parallel channel. There we go. And I draw this here along this line, and we drag it out to the bottom there. You can see it's a pretty aggressive descending channel, which those do also tend to break to the upside, but it's the falling wedge tends to break a lot more violently to the upside than the channel break. The channel break, it might be a V shape, but it might also kind of just piddle along sideways and then like slowly climb up. Kind of like when we got out of this channel down here, it just kind of went da 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 da, pause, and then exploded. So To the downside, again, I really would expect it to probably hold these lows around that 630, 620 range. I'd expect it to hold those lows. If it breaks out of this descending channel, I'd be looking at 990 to 1035 as potential take profit areas off of this double top here to come up to the midpoint of that double top, right? And then maybe start curling back over again before looking for a bid again to move up to maybe the 200 week moving average at 1192. We are operating in a huge descending channel for Riot, and we have been operating in this channel since July 2023. We've gone to the top of it now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We've gone to the bottom of it like 1, 2, 3-ish, almost touched it, 3 times about. And we could come back for it again. That's worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, we come to the bottom of this channel, which would be about in pace with this low here from January 2023 at 323. That's like worst case scenario. Best case scenario, we retake the midline of this descending channel and move our way back up to the top of it. That would be best case scenario right now for Riot. Let's take a look at Bitdigital. Bitdigital is also doing a bit of a falling wedge here. Okay, on the weekly, we did come back down to critical support, and I think, did we touch the bottom of that previous candle? No, not quite. We went under $2. Okay, we went down to 171 on this last week during the week. This got bad. I would be expecting, so we didn't actually touch this trend line up here, so that's spooky. In this case, I'm not really sure what to say about Bitdigital anymore. It's kind of lost the plot in terms of it's not really a Bitcoin miner anymore. It's more like an Ethereum holding company that also does a little bit of AI. So it's kind of hard to understand exactly what Bitdigital may or may not do in anymore, to be honest. They've got a very insignificant amount of Bitcoin now. They aren't mining very much at all. They're not really expanding those operations. They are expanding their AI operations, and they are, they're staking Ethereum, and that's about all that they've got going for them right now. So it's really hard for me to say if I really think Bitdigital is going to do much anymore. I do think that it will at some point possibly go above the 200-week moving average, maybe, extend itself up to like that $4.39, $5 range one more time from this $2 position it finds itself right now, because $2, as we've seen in the past, on multiple occasions in the past, $2 has been an area of support, right? This was just under $2. This came down to $2 in 2023, and then in 2024, we hit $2 again, and then now we've hit $2 one more time. And every time we've hit that $2 range, we've consolidated for a while and then exploded up towards mid-4s to high 5s on multiple occasions. So it could do that again. It could totally do that again. I'm just not so sure if I'm looking at Bitdigital as a Bitcoin play anymore, because they've shifted heavily towards AI. They've offloaded a lot of their Bitcoin. They've not expanded their Bitcoin operations, and they focused heavily on Ethereum. So and Ethereum's been in the toilet. So I haven't really been too interested in Bitdigital. I got rid of all of my Bitdigital in the high 2s and just kind of let it bleed out from there off of this bear flag right there. So all the technicals look bad. It is in a falling wedge. If it breaks that falling wedge, it could move up to the 50-week moving average at 309, maybe the 200-week moving average at 360, maybe overtake that ever so slightly into the mid-4s, but I don't really see it doing much more in like best case scenario. And I also don't see it falling too much further underneath $2, maybe to like the mid $1 range, but that's probably where I'd expect it to catch lows. Bitfarms stuck under $1. I warned you about this for a while here. As soon as we got into this chop zone here, when we were in this choppy zone here for Bitfarms, I got out of Bitfarms in the 2s, like mid 2s. I got about like 230, 240. And I got out because institutions weren't buying. Institutions were fleeing away from Bitfarms when they got caught up with Riot. So that's when that became very unattractive to me. And we've been seeing just red week after red week for a while now. We fell hard from 178. As soon as it cracked under $2, I was looking at sub $1 as the resting place here. And honestly, I don't know. I mean, maybe it can come down to 68 cents and that'll be the end, or maybe it'll come all the way back down to 36 cents and that would be the end. I'd have some interest at 36 cents perhaps, but I really wouldn't be expecting it to do much more than come back up to 171. I really don't see it going much higher than 171, especially with the massive amount of dilution they've done recently. They like doubled their shares pretty recently, and that's I just don't know. I don't think that Bitfarms has the best interest of its shareholders in mind any longer, and I'm really not interested in Bitfarms at all anymore. It's completely fallen off of being even remotely interesting to me anymore. But on the bright side, we have come to the absolute bottom of this huge mega channel that I've had on my chart for a while. We came down to it to the penny. We touched the bottom of my channel here. And when it comes up, yeah, it's got room up to, let's say, $1.43. It's got room for a double up, right? It's got room for a double up. And I know you've heard me say that on many of these miners today. They've got room for a double up, and that's because they've fallen so far that a double up really wouldn't be a lot for them at this point. And just hitting the 21-day moving average for this one is a double up. Sorry, the 21-week moving average at 143 is basically a double up from where it currently is. And if it can overtake that, then it could hit 171, which is the 50-week moving average. And that, if it were to hit that, if I were to buy this, I haven't bought this and I don't own it, and I'm not, and of course nothing I say is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. If I were to buy this, I would offload it at 171 and not look back. Personally, I would not expect it to go any higher than that. I'm not even sure it would get that high. So that's that for Bitfarms. All the technicals look terrible. It's in the dumpster right now. It's got to break this yellow line. Once it breaks that yellow line, it could do a double up from its current price. It wouldn't be a double up from where it broke the line, but it could do a double up from its current price up to 143. And from there, I'd be starting to, lighten my position, and I'd be completely out of that position if it went up to 171, or if it came back down beneath 130. I'd be out in that scenario as well. So Luna, the zero or hero play, the absolute dumper. It is a zero. This is a zero. I'm going to take the L on this. It's a few $100s that I had put into it back here around like the $3 mark. It is now down to 40 cents and getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Basically, if it just goes, it needs to do hundreds of percent just to get back to where I bought it, which was up here, right? 600% just to get back to the bottom of my buy channel from back here in September 2024, where I was buying. Fortunately, I controlled this one with position size. I had a very, very small position size on this. So I'm really not too concerned. I bought about 100 of them at that $3 range, and it's falling. And right now it would need to do 600% just to get back to where it was. Okay. Just to get back to where it was. Would I buy more of this? No, probably not. I don't really see any reason to. It was a lottery ticket, and it did what lottery tickets do. It went to zero. And that's all there is to it. I got nothing to say about it other than that. I'm probably not going to cover this one anymore. I'll probably just move it all the way to the bottom down here, all the way to the bottom, and just forget about it going forward. All right. Cifr is not showing any signs of life either. This is bad. This is basically going straight down here for weeks on weeks on weeks. Let's see, the volume oscillator here is bad. The BX trender is bad. The MACD is bad. We have broken beneath critical support on this bad boy. We are likely going to come down to 175 here, maybe even test 133 on Cifr here, which sucks because, we were up at $78 on this thing before. This is one of the best charts. I know if you've been watching for a while, this was one of my favorite charts. It was so consistent in this channel, And then, the new administration came in and just obliterated that channel. That thing is done. Now, if it breaks out of this, yeah, it could come up to, okay, so on to the downside, we're talking about $1.30. To the upside, potentially $4, like $4.50 in there on Cifr. Once it breaks this, this really, really aggressive trend line down, once it breaks that, it's probably going to quickly come up to like $4. But who knows when that's going to happen? It could break it and go sideways and just be flat in this range between 232 and 130 for like months, right? It could do this for months. Like, let me sort of draw that, like my expectations. If the trade war like gets worse, we're talking, we're talking like this, right? Maybe, and then maybe later in the year, we might see it do that. And like, that's kind of what I'm expecting right now from a lot of assets, to be honest, unless we get some deals coming through on what's going on with the trade right now. Corz, I have nibbled on Corz warrants. The Corz warrants, I think, are like $3 or $4. Sorry about that. I think you might have heard my dog bark. We are in this aggressive descending channel right now. We're at the bottom of it. Yeah, it's looking. We've come to critical support down here at about 679. We could potentially come down to like $6. And once we break out of this descending channel here, we could easily find ourselves at the 50-week moving average at 968, and then the 21 at 1115. But Corzy's got some promise as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, it once it breaks out of this descending channel, I would expect it to quickly find its way back up to like that $13 level, maybe even back up to like 16 bucks on Corz. So I have begun to nibble. I took a small position on the warrants, and of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. The BX trend is still looking bad. The volume oscillator is still looking bad. The MACD is still looking bad. That's why I took a small nibbling position on this thing, because if it falls to zero, I'm not going to lose a lot of money, but if it goes, it starts showing strength, I can add to it. Okay, that's what I've been doing. Let's take a look at Wulf. Oh, Corz actually got, how was its weekly? It was -4, but it actually eked out a little profit on Friday. Wulf, how's Wulf? Wulf was -4% this week. Wulf, similar to Corz, but I'm not too interested in Wulf. It's come to critical support. It could come down a little further to about 183 on the low end, and then on the high end, we're talking like 446, 450. If it breaks out up to the top of this descending channel, if it breaks out of this descending channel, it's gonna likely hit $5, maybe even come up to like 658 or so on that. And that's probably the highest zone I'd be expecting out of that thing. Hut broke out of its descending channel, so I'm gonna go ahead and close that out. I'm gonna leave this white line here though, because that is part of it. This line is done too. It's been cooked. All right, so we came all the way back down to the bottom of this big descending channel. Look at that, to the penny, we hit it. And I would be expecting this to remain as the low unless things really deteriorate, in which case we could come down to 631. On the upside though, we got the 200-week moving average at 1414, all right? We could hit that pretty easily from where we are, and that would be like a $3 move, right? Not too bad. We could also, once we conquer that, we've got 1642 at the 50-week moving average and 1730 at the 21-week moving average. Let me get rid of this. That's not useful anymore. Now, I would be expecting at some point for us to come up to the midline of this, and I do think that that's going to line up with this line right here. When it does, probably somewhere around here, like $18, $19, right? And then we'll struggle there a little bit, right? Maybe ride that midline a bit, and then if things go really well near the back end of the year, I'd be looking at a Hut coming back up to about $30. I don't know if it'll take out the previous high over here, but I do expect it to get to the top of this channel at some point in the future. Let's take a look at Hive. Hive, whoo boy, Hive went under my line here at 136. That's bad. So it swept this low over here. If it finds its way meandering back beneath that low again, Hive is in some serious trouble. When we break this red line here, I'd be looking at it to come up to about 222 and then get slammed right back down, unless we get some serious upward momentum out of this thing. I would like to see the 21 start to slope sideways and then move up. That would be interesting to me. I'd be watching for, honestly, I will be watching for, let me find it. I will be watching for this one, the white line there. Let me turn off my drawings. The white line here, I want, that's the 9 EMA. I'd like to see that sweep up and cross up above the 50-week moving average. And once it does that, then I'd be looking at Hive to very, very quickly come back towards some of these highs up here. Probably hit this yellow line up here when it does that at 515. That'd be pretty cool. But an early warning sign that it could be turning around I'm looking for is it trading above the 9 EMA. And that's about that. Everything else kind of looks bad on the technicals though. Just like so many, this is the common theme. The technicals look terrible. Can started taking a steeper move than before. Once we break this, I'd be looking at it to come up to about 114 on Can, and then come right back down, maybe test 72 cents again. 72 cents is the low right now. If it breaks that, you know, who knows what's going to happen. It could drop dramatically further, but it doesn't have a low lower than that right now. So if we lose 72 cents on Can, it could dump way lower. So you don't want it to lose 72 cents. That's the line in the sand. I may be willing to take some risk at like 74, 75 cents on Can, right? For a chance for it to move up to like 120, maybe even come up to the 50-week moving average at 154, which would give us a nice double up real quick. But honestly, if it fell under like 68 cents, I'd have my stop loss at 68 cents. I would be buying between 71 and 75 cents. And if it went anywhere below 68, maybe I'd set it at 67.5 cents, like 67.5 cents. Anything lower than that, I would just stop loss it right there. And I wouldn't want to mess with it beyond that. And I'd be looking for it to come up to the 50-week moving average, collect my double up and leave. That's all I would be doing on Can right now. And of course, nothing I say is financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. It is imperative at this point in time that we are playing with stop losses. Do not forget your stop losses. Do not forget to manage your risk. Things are very, very dangerous right now. Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm looking at right there. Let's take a look at Btdr. Btdr could come down to $6. Where it is right now, it's got a falling wedge, just like Iren. And it could blast out of this thing and come all the way back up to $19 really, really, really fast in like 1 or 2 days, or just a couple of days. But it could also continue to drift down towards that critical support at 591 right now, maybe even slightly lower than that, like 590, 580, some 580s. That's very possible because everything's been finding critical support, and this one hasn't quite hit it yet. So I would expect it to eventually tap that, maybe even next week if we get another shock. And then once it breaks this white line to the upside, I would expect it to quickly hit $12. And if $12 doesn't stop it, quickly hit $19 on Btdr. So Btdr's got a lot of upside potential if it can break this white line and break $12. But it also, I think, is probably going to hit 590 before it does. It does that potentially because everything, or at least 665. So let's make that the call. The call on this bad boy is between 665. Let's call it, no, I want it right there, 677. All right, fine, close enough. 677, somewhere in this little box right here. I'm expecting it to hit, and then from there start to climb back up. These are my expectations right here for Btdr. I think it could come into this little box and then whoop up to $12. If $12 doesn't prove to be a significant area of resistance, I see it hitting 19. All right, let's take a real quick look at MicroStrategy and at Coinbase before we go. All right, we're also going to talk about GameStop. Okay, so MicroStrategy actually closed the week 1.45% up. It is going flat. I do think we are going to complete this fractal here that you can see in the background there and have the price come back up to 344, maybe even into the high threes, potentially tapping $400 one more time before MicroStrategy rolls over. So I think MicroStrategy is primed to potentially start once it hits it's hit its base right here, and I'm expecting it to start sideways, and then maybe slowly move its way back up. Okay, so I'm watching that. Any breakage of the 50-week moving average at 247.34, and this bad boy's coming down to critical, right? It's going to come back down into the 100s. So watch that. And this line here too, this red line, it breaks that red line, we're going to hit 400, likely, or at least high 300s, okay? And if we lose the 50-week, we're coming down into the 100s on MicroStrategy. That's really all I got to say about MicroStrategy. Let's take a look at Coin real quick. Coin fell out of its descending channel here. You can see this descending channel, it fell out of it. Now this could be a bear trap. It could be a bear trap. We came to critical support right here, which is September 2024. We got real low. We tapped it to the penny and then started crawling back up. But we are beneath the 200-week moving average, the 50-week moving average. We're beneath all the moving averages. Okay, so Coinbase is actually not looking good. We really need to see an altcoin season for Coinbase to come out of the dumpster here. And that goes for ConL as well, which is the 2x version of it. If we lose this low here at 145.79, we are going to come all the way down to 115 on Coinbase. So watch that. On the upside, if we move to the upside though, we could come up to 222 to meet the 50-week moving average, or potentially to the top of the channel here at 248. So we could move up, almost $100, like $80, or we could move down by, a significant amount back down into the low 100s on Coinbase. Yeah, so if I got obliterated yesterday, that sucked. Let's take a look at GameStop. So GameStop said that it's going to start buying Bitcoin. Okay, and as a result, last week it was up 8%. So GameStop, we came down to this trend line here. We ever so slightly beat it and then went off of it again, right? So we're holding that. That's pretty good. We also touched this lower trend line the other week, sorry. And then on the upside here to it, we'd be coming along this trend line here. Next week we could hit $28. Like if they start buying Bitcoin, we could hit $28. The BX trender is looking good on GameStop. Okay, it is printing a lighter red. The volume is turning gray here, and it's been gray for 3 weeks. So that's turning around. We're just under the 50-week moving average. If we can conquer that, I think that we could potentially easily find ourselves up at $28, $29, maybe even $30 again, very, very, very quickly. And that could end up sending us into the 30s or 40s, because GameStop is a meme stock and it likes to squeeze. You can also see that the MACD here is starting to flatten out on the weekly, and it could start curling up. And whenever we get a cross up on the weekly on the MACD, look what happens. We went from 24 all the way up to 34. here in just a matter of a couple of months. So don't ignore the MACD crossups on a meme stock, because they are about all that momentum. And right now I like this. I like it where it is right now. I did buy a call on this. It was a leap call for it to go out to $25, up to $25. And that one's been doing quite well. I might add one or two more to it. I'm keeping that position really small because if it breaks out really hard, it's going to go up hundreds of %. And if it doesn't, it's going to fall flat and I'm going to lose it all. So this is a very small positioning size. Okay, very, very small for me. I'm not messing around with any of this risky crap anymore right now. I'm staying real tight on my risk management right now until I am shown that the scariest part of this is over. And that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Check out the Trade Cave store, link in the description, as well as the channel bio, and have a profitable day.